Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Good.
Good.
Everybody wants to talk about the elections, and I get tired of that, but let's talk about the election.
Yeah, let's talk about the elections.
So it's always something interesting. But, you know, I'm waiting for it, and I don't think we heard it yesterday, but I'm waiting for the day when the politicians get up, especially the one that's on the riding edge and they're top dog, and they're up for election again. Getting up and say, you know, we've really messed up. We're sorry. We did this, and you know, I'm going to confess that you know we did steal.
Yeah.
You know, just like the guy said about
Pompeo. Yeah. We stole. We cheated.
We were taught that way to do that. That has to be the most classic statement.
Yeah, for sure.
So the politician didn't do that. They criticized Republicans, and some Republicans criticized Trump.
Yeah.
So.
They did. Yeah.
That's the thing. You know, I have to tell you, I have an emotional dislike. I think it's, I hope it's not all emotional, because I don't like people who, you know, pretend loyalty. And once you join a group, there's a certain amount of loyalty that you have to give. That doesn't mean you have to do dumb things and wrong things, but they give this they tell them to do it, and they usually do. So I think that they're not likely to confess, and they're going to blame the other side, blame Republicans. But the people will say that I think I detest, regardless of why I detest them, and that is the people who have been Republicans, which means, you know, no matter what kind of a district they had, they probably had, you know, the Republican, there might be 20, 30, 40% of their vote. And but they come in, and then all of a sudden they're dedicated leftists, and it didn't even melt into the pot of republicanism, and that's and then they turn over, and we saw a little bit of that at this convention. Republicans flocked in there to show that they're independent-minded. We're independent-minded. We'll vote against Republicans if they start telling the truth. We can't take that.
Yeah. It was quite a day yesterday. The Obamas came back, and you know, I mean, I have to confess sometimes, Biden has been so bad. I mean, it's been such a terrible president that there have been moments of levity, but they were unintended. That when he says something crazy, that's sort of funny. But otherwise, he's been so terrible on civil liberties, on privacy, on war. And Trump was so disappointing. You know, we had John Bolton, we had Pompeo, we had Haley. So disappointing, you know, just when you get your hopes up, he lets you down. So you can kind of drift back and think, oh, those Obama years, they weren't so bad after all. But then they come back on stage and you remember, oh my gosh, they were so bad. They were so terrible. And there they were on the screen last night.
Maybe it was a subtle confession.
Yeah,
you know, they might realize there's some people out there, well, we were with you the whole time.
Yeah.
That was all fake.
Yeah.
And Obama said, well, it worked out. I got through 8 years and didn't start too many wars and didn't assassinate that many people.
Yeah, Americans.
So all of the big game they play. But there were quite a few of them that were taking this position. But the one thing that brought the crowd together is they didn't like Trump.
Yeah. Let's play that clip, actually, because this is in case you missed the last night's festivities, here is a 15-second summary of what happened. You might want to put on your ear clip, and here, you don't want to miss this. This is a summary of last night at the DNC.
Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump,
Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump,
Donald Trump, Donald Trump,
Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump,
Donald Trump.
I wonder if they could spell his name. They could say his name, but they probably can't even spell his name.
I mean, I feel old because I remember when they would come. The whole thing was sold, hope returns, you know, hope returns. I remember when they would come with a platform. Here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to turn things around. Here's the plan. I guess you can't run on turning things around because she's been in power since then. So all they can do is say Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
So that got the attention anyway, huh?
Yeah.
So I wonder if anybody else had something to say about this thing.
Yeah, we have.
Sorry.
I have a clip of Michelle if you want to hear what Michelle's been up to. She took the stage, and she had something that really irritated her, Dr. Paul, which is greed. Greed, greed, greed. She hates greed. Let's listen to her. Let's play 35 seconds of Michelle telling us a valuable lesson that her mother taught her. If you put this next to the second clip, 35 seconds of that. You want to listen into Michelle, Dr. Paul, because
I don't want to miss it.
she's got some words of wisdom about greed. If we can cue up that second one, please. Can we do that second clip, 35 seconds of the second clip?
Both links are linked to the same video.
Okay, well, we got a problem with that one. Well, anyway, let's just do that first video, that first clip instead of the, I must have pasted it in wrong. Well, she was saying, don't ever take more than you need. That's what her mother taught her. And someone makes a very, very good comment. She preaches about the evils of greed, but the Obamas have a net worth of $70 million. They own 4 luxurious properties. Their Washington, D.C. home they bought for $8 million. They bought a house in Martha's Vineyard for $11.7 million. They have a beachfront home in Hawaii for $8.7 million. And, of course, that Chicago home for $1.65 million. Now, if you're wondering if that Martha's Vineyard home is just kind of a shack for 11 mil. Let's have a look at that next one. This is the house that people live in that preach to you that you should hate greed and you should only take the bare minimum. Just take what you need. Here's their $20 million mansion in the Hamptons.
Yeah,
So-
there's a big difference, and I think that if people want to paint the Republicans that if they're wealthy, they're in the same category as if somebody stole it.
Yeah.
So that should be the big question: did somebody work hard and save their money and build a nice house, and because they were frugal and worked hard? It sounds like Kamala doesn't care about that. We're going to tax them. We got to get their money too. But at the same time, the people who are promoting those laws are saving their money and putting their money into this type of real estate.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly not railing against wealthy people, but it's always the same with people like the Obamas. They talk about how terrible greed is, and that they're mere public servants. Why does it seem? I mean, I was reading Nancy Pelosi, I think a couple of weeks ago, she made $10 million in stock trading in 1 week, But these are the same people who rail against greed. They're obviously using the power of their office to get wealthy.
I didn't listen to all that stuff, but I read a bit, and I don't recall reading anything where Obama said anything about his announcement. Assad has to go.
Yeah.
And that was a rant. And it was over and over again. And others picked it up. Even later presidents say Assad has to go, and then all of a sudden it became very silent. Assad has to stay. So that is something that is just conflicts with all this wonderful language that they use. They use constitutional language. They use libertarian language.
Yeah.
They spout that off about the great and wonderful things that they do. But and unfortunately, there's a lot of people buy into it. I can't stand listening to that because some of the stuff that they're saying and getting those cheers, I don't need this. Why should I sit here and yell at it?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, the Assad must go and everything. Obama was up there talking about how dangerous Donald Trump was. And now Clint Russell, I think we've both been on his program, Liberty Lock Pod. He had a good observation. If we can do that third clip, and it's going to be a little bit tricky, but if we can start at the 50-second mark, because he makes fun of Donald Trump for using crude nicknames for people, and then he himself says something extremely crude that we're not going to play on the show. But if we can skip ahead to the 50-second mark and play it until the end, that third video clip, we'll get to the point. I know it's tricky to do this, but let's hear what he says about Trump.
And all. The other day I heard someone compare Trump to the neighbor who keeps running his leaf blower outside your window every minute of every day. Now, from a neighbor, that's exhausting. From a president, it's just dangerous.
Dangerous. There we go. And this is
Here's
what
a
Clint said about it. He makes a good
78-year-old
point.
billionaire.
If we can, yeah. So if we can, let's look at that clip. I don't know if we can, but he makes the point that here's a president who drone strike. No, not that one. Never mind on that one. We're a little bit messed up on this. It's my fault. But he said this is a president who used drone strikes against an American citizen. And I actually tweeted under it saying, actually, too, Anwar al-Awlaki, he killed this person without a warrant, without a trial, without a verdict. He killed two of them. Now, Clint makes a good point, and that's pretty dangerous, which we would add to what you just said about not only the Assad must go, but his entire foreign policy of those 8 years. Literally every problem we face in the world, every major problem, let's put it that way, was brought about by the Obama administration. It was under Obama that we had the coup against the elected president of Ukraine. And now look, we're on the verge of World War III. It was under Obama that we had the phony Arab Spring, which brought in color revolutions, slaughtered thousands and thousands of people, and did not bring in democracy. They killed Gaddafi, they destroyed the country, they destroyed Syria. Assad was managing to stay, but nevertheless, every problem we face in the Middle East and in Russia, Ukraine, that was all Barack Obama. So where does he get off calling other people dangerous?
You know, if you want to compare the differences or similarities of the two parties, overall, both parties endorsed the dangerous position. The dangerous position for me is their devotion to interventionism, that we have a moral responsibility. They believe it's our duty, it's our God-given duty that we police the world and make it a better place to live. And a couple people must believe that that's what they're doing. But it's a bipartisan thing. Although I don't think the Republicans would have been so obsessed with the Obama foreign policy, but I think you have to deal with the big picture, which is the principle of interventionism, entangling alliances and shifting troops around, trade wars, sanctions, and it's a mixed bag because this way, I think the people like to have a vague philosophic base. Yeah. They don't want what I'm talking about, because if you say you have to follow the Constitution, well, that's too restrictive. They want flexibility, and so that's why intervention in foreign policy, and you have to be interventions on civil liberties too, because you can't let anybody suffer any consequences. So they not only get concerned, they go overboard. It's their decision. How do you create diversity and make it fair to everybody? Oh, you still have to take something from one group and give it to the other group. You have to use guns and money and the threat of government to do it, but we're always working for something good. So it's the principle of interventionism that leads to all this mischief. So that's why, I understand how people would say, "Well, yeah, but Trump is so much better than Kamala." Yeah. And there's some truth to that. Yeah, there is. But there's also some truth to the fact that a lot of harms can come from people who disarm the populace, and then they go along with them and say, "Oh no, Trump is not like this." But he's, what about his assassinations? You know, the things that he's been involved in, and you mentioned some of his appointments. So we're wondering whether he might have listened to our program once in a while. Maybe his appointees will be different.
Yeah, he should listen to us. Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's a great I think this person is a progressive on Twitter. If you can do that Empire of Lies tweet that we put up earlier. I apologize for messing up the order. I'm causing our team back there to have panic attacks, and I apologize for that. But this is a good critique. We talk about Obama's foreign policy. This is Empire of Lies on Twitter X. and I believe this is a Bernie fan, so it's a progressive that we definitely would be allied with. He says, Barack Obama is the only two-term president in U.S. history to be at war every day of his presidency. The only one. No progressive legislation passed, no Wall Street bankers prosecuted, historic levels of income inequality. He's a fraud, a con man, and an enemy of the working class. So that's how the honest progressives see him, as an absolute warmonger at war every single day of his presidency.
You know, and just think how many people on the receiving end and the politicians who gain support by passionate support for the poor people.
Yeah.
And they never ask the question, why are they poor?
Yeah.
They might be responsible for some of their poor living standards, but it also might be poor because the same people who are going to save them from themselves are the ones that have policies like wage and price controls and all these regulations and or won't be for lower taxes. So they do that, and that to me is where they really fall down on it, because they do this and they know they're lying, but after a while, lying doesn't bother them. You know, you have to lie for an empire. Somebody might come in and change that empire.
Yeah,
I think there's a few countries thinking about that right now, about us being king of the dollar.
So it's not only his terrible foreign policy and his dangerous foreign policy, but, you know, let's roast Obama a little bit more. Obama is, in a sense, the person behind the Russiagate lie. You know, and if you put on that next video clip, so this is, it was originally tweeted out by The Blaze, who talks about how how ironic and hypocritical it is that Obama is talking about, that last, I think, video clip, if we have it, that talk about that Obama is talking about that government is inherently corrupt. Obama says the other side knows it's easier to play on people's fears and cynicism. They will tell you government is inherently corrupt. To which Hans Monkey on Twitter makes a good point, and I'm just going to read it here. I don't even know that we need to listen to it, because he makes this great point. He's attacking people who think government is corrupt, yet this tweet points out, on July 28, 2016, Obama found out that the Russia collusion scam originated with the Clinton campaign. He not only kept quiet while the country was being torn apart over a lie, but he poured gasoline on the fire. He was president at the time. So yes, this tweet points out, the government is inherently corrupt, and so is Obama. He is the one who let this happen. He could have put a stop to it from the beginning. He knew it was a lie, and he pushed it.
And the evidence is overwhelming that even those who are well-intended and want to go to Washington and do good, and yet their minds just melt away. They've lost it, and they get put together, and all of a sudden, oh, you know, that castle we'd like to live in. How do you do that if you're just a poor congressman and you don't have enough money? Well, you do business elsewhere. And the Bidens didn't do badly.
No. They
did okay.
Yeah.
But you know, it's interesting about how Biden, you know, treats Nancy Pelosi and these other people when they hate each other's guts. But all of a sudden, you hear these things of how bitter Biden probably is. But at the same time, you know, he will still play the game. His parting words was unity, unity, unity. Donald Trump, 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 Trump. And so they have to be, before when they were a lowly vice president, they had to do really a lot of stealing. But when you retire like this, if you follow the rules, I think they follow through. They don't dump you, but they will dump you if he has a second thoughts about it, and if they come out and then they condemn them, then they'll get hit too, and they won't get their mansion.
He won't get to keep his money. I think he'll be all right. I think.
Well,
we just want to touch on the second little mini story here, because in a way it's related, because This is all Obama's baby. The entire fracture with Russia, totally unnecessary and totally on the back of the Obama administration. So now we talked about it several times on the show, Dr. Paul, how there are troops in Kursk. Ukraine has invaded Russia. They're in Kursk. But now here's a sort of an escalation. If you put on that next clip. So this is from Zero Hedge. Russia summons US Envoy over presence of American mercenaries and a CNN crew in the Kursk region. So Russia called in the charge d'affaires, the foreign ministry did, to hand them a letter saying, look, guys, we see that there are American mercenaries and American journalists illegally inside Russia. This is a problem for us, and you need to deal with it. And if you go to the next one, this is a tweet from Sputnik, which is a Russian state radio. U.S. Merc spotted in Kursk region. Now, this is inside Russia. U.S. mercenary firm Forward Observations Group, previously known for its presence in Ukraine and Israel, claims its members are taking part in the Ukrainian attack of the Kursk region, Sputnik has discovered. So that is inside Russia. Now go to the next one. Here is a Instagram post that the Forward Observation Group had. And if you can see on the bottom, it's slightly obscured. The boys in Kursk, i.e. their soldiers in Kursk. So you have American, maybe former military, maybe they just resigned from the military, but nevertheless they are operating inside of Russia with American weapons. That's an American Humvee behind them. They say that Russia is ignoring its red lines. I think this is an escalation.
Yeah, it is, and it's part of that interventionism that I don't like. It goes, it's installed before you know it'll get out of control. They think they can control it, and they do in a way, back down, have peace treaties that last a month or two. But ultimately, the whole system breaks down, and that's how, for the last 150 years, we got into big wars and a lot of little wars that were really big wars. If you counted, the one thing that you could count that would show that these little wars are big is count the number of bombs that are dropped. World War II, there were a lot of bombs dropped, but then every once in a while they'll say, well, we probably dropped that many just in Ukraine and participated. But the whole thing is it's the international stuff too, the NATO, UN, and all that peacekeeping stuff. That's fed to the people, and the people either want to ignore it. What can they do about it? And it takes more than that. We have to have true believers that understand what non-intervention means and how beneficial it is. It has a moral basis to it. They could be accused of following the Constitution too much. If they did that. No, it wasn't. It never meant to be followed all the time.
Well, I'm going to close out, Dr. Paul. We digested a little bit of the DNC, but and to our viewers that are tired of this, I'm sorry, it'll only be a couple more days. I do want to once again remind you, if you put on that last clip, the Liberty Platform, 9 great speakers and 9 interesting, important topics if you want to look at the totality of liberty. And Dr. Paul talks about this all the time, the totality, the different aspects of the real Liberty Platform. I'm going to be taking the show on the road to get up to DC here in a few days, so I won't be putting this in front of you very often. I am happy to say, Dr. Paul, that we have sold more tickets now this year than last year, and that's always good. We always like to do a little bit better each year, but there are still some seats available, so get those tickets. Join us on the 31st of August in Dulles, Virginia. There's a lot to do. You don't even have to go to DC. There's some good museums out there in Dulles. The Air and Space has a great thing out there as well. So there's a lot to do. Get those tickets and come see us. And over to you, Dr. Paul.
Very good. No, I'm looking forward to it, and a lot of people are, and I'm certainly glad that you put the effort in that is required to do that. And I think we'll have most of our staff people out there too. Sometimes we neglect giving them the credit that goes into doing things like that. And a lot of the people, the listeners, know that there are other people that help.
Yeah.
And
Chris Rossini's going to be there.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to mob Chris. They're going to get his autograph.
Yeah, he's our standby.
That's right. Yeah.
On the Fridays especially.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No,
I'm
to see
looking
him.
forward to this. This is going to be neat. And I am glad that it's working out. It's picking, just the planning. I'm not very good. I'm too impatient. You're a little impatient, but you stick to it until it's taken care of.
Yeah, we started planning this, in the winter still, like February or something.
And your staff, you have 22 people on the staff.
Oh no, 2,200.
But anyway, that's good. We don't need all those people because the philosophy is simple and clear and it's right and is so advantageous for people to look at it secretly and openly, and that to me makes it easier for us to get by with a little bit less. We don't have to figure out if there's two people in war. You take the Middle East crisis. I think about that. You have two countries that's been fighting for years and years and years, and if you're trying to balance things, some people will balance it leaning one way, some of it balance it the other way, and it's so difficult to come up with fairness, balance it the right way all the time. Well, the whole thing is that sometimes if you're trying to sort these pieces out, you just take away the advantage that we think we're giving people by stealing money from the American taxpayer and taking that and buying weapons and directing them to do something in their country that they don't want to do. And if they don't participate in how we think the world should be made up, heck, we have a lot of bombs too, and we will take care of them, and they may be a victim of our sanctions. That can end if people just wake up and say, we shouldn't have an empire, and that's what we have. And that means we would not have an isolationism that people say, oh, you guys are isolationists. Believe me, a free society that endorses everything voluntary makes the society more integrated. And that is what they claim that they're for. So anyway, we're delighted to put on our conferences, and hopefully we'll see a lot of you there. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.